As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the playground, a young girl played alone. She was an autistic child, often neglected by others, and dressed in hand-me-downs and tattered thrift store clothing by her mother. The little girl had no friends, but that didn't bother her. The playground was her stage for superhero fantasies, and her hero pop was her symbol of strength. She would buy many of them at the corner candy store with the change she found between the cushions of her father's couch. The park, once lively with other children and their vigilant parents, was now empty, and the little girl continued to play as the evening approached. Her life was a constant struggle. Her father was an absent alcoholic, and her mother worked late into the night to support the family, leaving the girl to fend for herself. The girl was the youngest of 7 children, and she was the last child left in the family home. None of her older siblings cared a lick about her or her welfare. They were not invested in what happened to those they left behind. Her family's neglect had made the little girl extremely self-reliant, finding comfort in her imagination and her lollipops. She always seemed to have one in her hand or in her mouth at all times, and fortunately, the sweet, sugary treats did not harm or displace her teeth. It was as if they magically spared her that solitary misery. One evening, as the little girl pumped her legs hard to go higher and higher on the playground swing, a teenage boy with dubious intentions watched her. He lived on the same block as the little girl and had been keeping an eye on her isolated play for months. Recently, he had started following her to the park, waiting for the right moment. When he felt it was safe, he approached her as she stopped the swing and slowly made her way to the monkey bars. The street lamps were coming on. The boy ran up to the child and roughly grabbed her wrist, attempting to drag her toward one of the empty public restrooms. The girl, oblivious to her surroundings, reacted instinctively. She managed to place her hero pop in the palm of her free hand, like an awl, and she immediately jabbed him with the hardened paper stick in his left eye, causing him to stagger back in pain. Fortunately for the boy, the object did not puncture his eyeball, but the unexpected strike and subsequent pain did give him great pause. Taking this opportunity, the girl ran home. The boy lived with his mother, a large, intimidating woman who worked long hours at the local bar. Furious and embarrassed, the boy ran home and reported the incident to her.
"Mom, that little girl across the street attacked me,"
he yelled, pointing at his reddened eye. Enraged, the mother decided to take matters into her own hands. Known in the neighborhood for her fierce temperament, she called her large pit bull to her and leashed it, marching over to the little girl's house. The girl's next-door neighbor, Ralph Willis, sighed and put down his newspaper. With a resigned expression, he muttered, "Here we go again," as he watched the woman storm up the lawn with her dog. Standing on the front lawn of the little girl's home, she shouted,
"Come outside right now, you little hussy, or I'll come in and get you."
Inside the house, the girl heard the threats, but remained calm. She had learned not to expect protection or support from her absent parents, and had grown accustomed to facing dangers alone. Accepting whatever came with a stoic calm had become her way of coping in a world that increasingly made no sense to her. When the girl stepped outside, the woman was momentarily taken aback by her bravery. With a scowl, she commanded her dog to
"Sick her!"
and released the animal. The dog charged, its growls echoing in the quiet evening. The girl stood her ground. With a steady hand, she pulled the huge hero pop from her mouth and with surprising precision, shoved it into the dog's open mouth and down its throat just before it could bite her. The dog yelped in shock and great discomfort, convulsed, and collapsed on the grass, choking and gasping for breath. The woman's eyes widened in shock, rage, and disbelief as she saw her dog struggling.
"What did you do to my dog?"
she screamed, rushing to the dog's side. She frantically tried to pull out the lollipop, but it was wedged too deep in the dog's throat, nearly sideways. The dog's struggles grew weaker until it lay still, lifeless. Grief-stricken and furious, the woman knelt beside her deceased pet, tears streaming down her face. The girl, standing a few feet away with a new lollipop, where had that come from, watched with a calm resolve. Fueled by anger, the woman rose and advanced toward the girl.
I'll make you pay for this,
She roared. The girl, unshaken, faced her calmly.
What did you say?
She asked quietly. As the woman opened her mouth to shout again and stooped in front of the child, the girl, with the smallest and most nimble digits, swiftly ran up to her and shoved the remaining hero pop down her throat. The woman's hands flew to her neck in a desperate attempt to dislodge the candy, but she couldn't. Her choking grew more intense. At that moment, Old Man Willis, who had been observing with a mix of weariness and amusement, appeared. With practiced ease, he grabbed the frantic woman from behind and performed the Heimlich maneuver, causing the lollipop to be expelled from her throat. He gave the startled woman an added one-thrust rutting gesture from behind that was unnecessary, but he found hilarious.
There she blows,
He chuckled as the lollipop flew through the air. The woman whipped around on her savior with a scowl.
Don't you touch me, you old pervert.
She yelled. The little girl was now standing on her parents' porch with another lollipop in her mouth. Seeing this, the terrified woman ran forward, scooped up her lifeless dog, and fled back to her house without stopping. The police were not called, and the little girl was never bothered by the woman or her son again. Willis shook his head, mumbling.
Well, that's another day in the neighborhood.
As he turned back to his porch, the echoes of the evening's chaos fading into the night.